Pope John XII. Pope John XII is considered one of the most corrupt and scandalous popes in history. He became pope at around 20 years old, largely because of his powerful family, the influential Tusculani family in Rome. Known for his immoral lifestyle, John quickly gained a reputation for turning the Lateran Palace into what chroniclers described as a den of vice. He was accused of multiple counts of adultery, incest, and other sexual misconduct, including fathering illegitimate children and elevating his mistresses to positions of power. His actions were widely condemned by both religious leaders and Roman citizens, damaging the reputation of the papacy. Beyond personal corruption, John's political decisions were reckless and self-serving. Seeking to protect his power, he allied with the German king Otto I and crowned him Holy Roman Emperor in 962. However, John soon turned against Otto, secretly plotting with Otto's enemies to reclaim independence for Rome. This betrayal led Otto to return to Rome, where he convened a council of bishops to depose John on the grounds of corruption, betrayal, and various crimes. In response, John fled Rome with most of the papacy's gold, but soon returned with an army to reclaim the papal throne after brutally crushing his enemies. Pope John's end was as turbulent as his reign. He reportedly died in 964 under suspicious circumstances. Before he was able to negotiate with Otto, he was either murdered by a jealous husband or had a stroke while with a mistress. His papacy, marked by scandal, violence, and betrayal, severely weakened the moral and political authority of the Church, making him one of the most infamous popes in history. Pope Alexander VI, born Rodrigo Borgia, is infamous for his corrupt and scandal-ridden papacy, marked by blatant nepotism, bribery, and moral corruption. Coming from the powerful and wealthy Borgia family, Alexander used his influence to buy the papacy in one of the most overtly corrupt conclaves in history. Once in power, he promoted his children and other family members to high-ranking positions, using the church's wealth and power to expand the Borgia family's influence across Italy. Alexander VI's personal life was equally scandalous. He openly acknowledged his illegitimate children, most notably Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia, and worked to secure political marriages and titles for them, often through manipulation and violence. His son Cesare, a notorious military leader, played a central role in Alexander's plans, leading campaigns of conquest across Italy, and at some point being appointed a cardinal by his father, leading to suspicions of Alexander attempting to create a hereditary papacy. Politically, Alexander's ambitions destabilized Italy. He played European powers against each other, forming and breaking alliances to serve Borgia interests. This not only led to wars and territorial conflicts, but also left Italy vulnerable to foreign intervention. Alexander VI's papacy is remembered as a period of unprecedented corruption and exploitation, leaving a legacy of distrust and a weakened church. Pope Leo X. Born Giovanni de' Medici, is often criticized for his extravagant spending and failure to address the growing discontent within the Church, which helped trigger the Protestant Reformation. Known for his lavish lifestyle, Leo used church funds to finance his art patronage and luxurious projects, including grand festivals and building campaigns in Rome. His excessive spending quickly depleted the Church's treasury, leading him to authorize the sale of indulgences, a practice that promised remission of sins in exchange for money, to fund the construction of St. Peter's Basilica. The sale of indulgences under Leo's papacy became a focal point for criticism and played a key role in Martin Luther's objections to church practices. In 1517, Luther published his 95 Theses, condemning indulgences as corrupt and spiritually harmful. Instead of addressing these grievances, Leo dismissed Luther's concerns and took a hard stance, ultimately excommunicating him. This refusal to engage with reformist ideas contributed to a deep divide in Christendom, leading to the Reformation and the formation of Protestant churches. Although Leo genuinely wanted to invest in Rome and the Vatican and its people by renovating buildings and giving to charity, he frequently appointed relatives and allies to high-ranking church positions, prioritizing Medici family interests over the Church's spiritual mission. His reign is often seen as a period when papal priorities strayed far from religious integrity, emphasizing wealth and power instead. Leo's actions left the Catholic Church weakened and discredited, facing a massive crisis of faith and authority across Europe. Pope Stephen VI. Pope Stephen is widely regarded as one of the most notorious and morally compromised popes due to his involvement in the Cadaver Synod. This infamous trial took place when Stephen, consumed by political grievances, ordered the exhumation of his predecessor, Pope Formosus's corpse. He had the decayed body propped up, dressed in papal robes, and put on trial for alleged crimes, including perjury and illegally assuming the papacy. The corpse was condemned, stripped of its vestments, and mutilated before being thrown into the Tiber River, where the corpse allegedly performed several miracles, which led to a public uprising against Stephen. Stephen's motives for the Cadaver Synod were likely driven by political tensions. He was a loyalist to the powerful Spoleto family, who opposed Pope Formosus. Formosus had sided with other factions in the struggle for control over the Holy Roman Empire, challenging the Spoletans. By desecrating Formosus's memory, Stephen aimed to delegitimize his political enemies. This act, however, only served to deepen the divisions within the church and the region, causing instability and anger among both clergy and laypeople. The fallout from Stephen VI's actions was immediate. The public, already disturbed by the Cadaver Synod, turned against him. After months of turmoil, Stephen was imprisoned and eventually strangled to death by political opponents in 897. His short, turbulent reign has since been seen as a low point in the papacy, reflecting the worst of the Church's involvement in violent power struggles. Pope Boniface VIII. Pope Boniface is often viewed as one of the more controversial popes due to his aggressive pursuit of power and his conflicts with secular rulers, especially the French king Philip IV. Boniface believed in the supreme authority of the papacy over all earthly rulers, which he asserted in the papal bull Unam Sanctam. This document declared that salvation required submission to the pope, a stance that provoked strong resistance from European monarchs who saw it as an overreach of papal power, resulting in a loss of prestige for the papacy. Boniface's feud with Philip escalated into a major crisis. Philip defied Boniface's authority by taxing the French clergy and blocking church funds to Rome, a move that Boniface condemned but ultimately could not prevent. Additionally, Philip orchestrated a campaign to discredit the pope, accusing him of heresy and immorality. In 1303, French agents even captured Boniface in Anagni, where he was beaten and humiliated before being released. He died soon after, humiliated and defeated, marking a rare instance of papal vulnerability to secular power. Pope Benedict IX. Benedict is remembered as one of the most scandalous and morally corrupt popes in church history. Elected as a teenager due to the influence of his powerful family, the Tusculani, Benedict's papacy quickly descended into immorality and abuse of power. Chroniclers of the time accused him of committing numerous crimes, including acts of violence, murder, and even unspeakable sins that horrified the clergy and lay people alike. He was compared to a demon by historians and said to promote deviancy and sodomy within the church. Benedict's time as pope was chaotic, marked by repeated abdications and returns to power. In 1044, he was driven out of Rome by angry citizens and rival factions. He later reclaimed it after a brief retirement in April 1045 with the help of Holy Roman Emperor Conrad II, only to sell the position to his godfather in May of the same year in order to marry his cousin. He returned in 1047, but was deposed for the final time in 1048. His actions contributed to a serious loss of respect for the Church, prompting a reform movement within it, which sought to end the corruption and immorality that had taken root. Benedict's papacy is often cited as one of the most shameful periods in papal history, exemplifying the depths of corruption and deviancy possible if power is given to a wrong person. Pope Paul IV. Pope Paul is remembered for his harsh, authoritarian rule and extreme policies that intensified divisions within the Church and society. A staunch supporter of the Catholic Counter-Reformation, Paul IV took aggressive actions to root out what he considered heresy and moral corruption. He expanded the power of the Roman Inquisition, leading to widespread persecution of suspected Protestants, intellectuals, and even clergy who questioned church doctrine. His uncompromising approach fostered an atmosphere of fear and repression, damaging the Church's reputation and stifling intellectual freedom. Paul IV was also openly anti-Semitic, enacting oppressive policies against Jewish communities in Rome. He issued the papal bull Cum Nimis Absurdum in 1555, which forced Jews into a walled ghetto, restricted their economic activities, and required them to wear identifying clothing. Some other policies he enacted are ban of begging and taking alms, censorship of nude art and artists, ban of Protestant written books, ban on Italian and German translations of the Bible, limiting foreign liberties, and limiting foreign trade. Paul's inflexible and harsh policies left a legacy of fear, division, and resentment, and his papacy is often seen as one of the most oppressive and controversial in church history. Pope Urban VI. Pope Urban was notorious for his authoritarian leadership style, which alienated church leaders and sparked the Western Schism, one of the most damaging crises in church history. Known for his violent temper and distrustful nature, Urban antagonized his cardinals by publicly berating them and making harsh demands. This erratic behavior quickly soured relations within the church, prompting a faction of cardinals to declare his election invalid. They subsequently elected a rival pope, Clement VII, who set up a competing papal court in Avignon, leading to nearly 40 years of division within the Catholic Church. Urban's ruthless treatment of dissenters only worsened his reputation. He reportedly tortured and executed several cardinals whom he suspected of disloyalty, creating a climate of fear and further isolating himself from church leaders. His aggressive stance and willingness to use brutal tactics prevented any chance of reconciliation, prolonging the schism and severely weakening the Church's moral authority across Europe. Urban VII's papacy is remembered for its contribution to church division and its departure from the principles of spiritual leadership.